You are tuned to ARP on the Accelerated Radio Network. It's 12 noon, and it's time to have lunch. Lunch with the Finance Bunch. Lunch with the Finance Bunch. Lunch with the Finance Bunch. Bringing money talk you can understand. And now here's your host, Miss Charline.
Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome again to Lunch with the Finance Bunch. I have the beautiful Michelle Delamore with us today, and Michelle is a singer, a songwriter. She was on American Idol. She was one of the finalists. So we're going to talk to her today about her career, where she's headed, what she's doing. I'm so happy to have you here.
Aw, thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the first thing I'd like to ask you, of course, everyone's always, I know, ask you about American Idol.
Yeah.
So walk us through how that happened.
You know, it's such an interesting process, and it's funny that someone with my personality, or I could just speak really for myself, would do a show like that. I'm not the most competitive person. Okay. I just absolutely have always known that music is my dream and that I was going to do it regardless. And it was actually my sister who pushed me to do it. Okay. So my sister asked me one day, well, I had already been working with a team of people and, you know, working on my music. And you know how the industry is. There's ups and downs. And Charlotte was like, I think it's time for a change. Charlotte's my sister and my manager.
Right.
And at the time, she wasn't my manager. She was just my best friend and sister.
Okay.
And so, yeah, she just was like, I think you need to do the show. And I was like, okay, yeah, whatever. And so I promised her I would do it. I didn't know the show was going to come into town a month later. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
So she texted me and she's like, hey, auditions are in a month. And I turned my phone off. And then I was like, I can't run away from my sister forever. So it's like, okay, I did say I would do it. And I went, and it was a crazy, crazy process. It was amazing. 110,000 people auditioned my year. So
wow.
Yeah, it was insane. The entire process was insane. It was like going through the biggest boot camp of my life. And it tested every area of me as a person. And I'm so happy I did it. You know, I really, really am.
Wow. So if you could pick just a few things that you walked away from that show with, what would you say those things were as far as enhancing you as a singer and in your career?
You know, I think the biggest thing for me was like identity. I think when you're in a setting like that where there's millions of people watching you, right? And then there's these 4 judges staring at you, and they all have opinions of who they believe you are, who they believe you should be. My biggest challenge was staying true to who I was in the midst of all of that. And I think that my biggest takeaway was actually I had this great platform and I was on the show, and yeah, I was a finalist and that was great, but I never felt like I truly showed the world exactly all of who I was, and for different reasons. One, I was still figuring myself out, you know, and you have all this advice and all these different things, and at the same time, you know, you want to win the show. So you're just like, okay, well, if you're telling me that's what it's going to take, then I'll just do it. But that didn't help me, so I'm not doing that anymore.
Right.
I appreciate advice. I really, really do. But I think nothing is more important than being you as authentically and fiercely as you possibly can. So that was my biggest lesson.
I'm so glad you said that, because a lot of times, especially with young artists, coming up, they start out being original, right, and then they try to push themselves or mold themselves into something that someone else thinks they should be, and it takes away from, you know, who they are. Right. And so what advice would you give a young person just starting out in the business who can sing or wants to get into the business? What is some advice you could give them?
I have to say, you know, we're living in an era that is all about self-sufficiency. So first of all, I think it's really, really important to hone your craft and you know, just take the time and the discipline to really work on yourself and figure out who you are as an artist. Really, truly know who you are. Like, what's your message? What's your sound? What's your look? Like, all of that. Figure that out. And because no one should be able to decide that for you. You should decide that for yourself. And then from there, you know, kind of study. We're not, you know, it's amazing. It's so great. I think before people used to just say, well, one day I want to be a singer. I'm just going to get signed and let it all happen. But, you know, it's so much more empowering. And my advice would be really learn every area. If you want to be a singer, learn about the marketing, learn about the publicity, learn about what it takes to do videos. It doesn't mean you have to do all of it, but know enough that you can make it happen and you don't have to depend on anyone else. So, yeah.
Exactly. So you're trying to tell them to be self-sufficient.
Self-sufficiency is key. It is everything.
Yes.
And consistency. My God, there's so much advice because I've had to learn and I'm still learning. But yeah, consistency, discipline, self-sufficiency, all of it. Yeah.
Now the consistency part.
Right.
That to me is one of the bell ringers because, you know, it's hard to be consistent.
It's hard.
It's really hard. So what do you do to stay consistent?
It's interesting because I feel like right now more than ever is where I've really made a conscious choice to remove any patterns in my life that were causing me to not be consistent. So I'm kind of in the middle of that right now. For me, it's creating a schedule. And just being super detailed and super focused and saying, okay, this is what I'm going to do. Everybody has a different way of doing things. I like everything to look really pretty. So if I have a calendar that tells me what I'm supposed to do and it looks really purple and really cute and everything, I'm not going to want to disappoint myself or that cute calendar. So it's like, just making sure you set up whatever it is that motivates you to do those things daily and consistently, just kind of set those things up. For me, I listen to people that have succeeded, people that I admire. Lisa Nichols is one of those. Obviously, Tony Robbins, people that are winning in the game of life.
Yes.
How did they get there? I want to know what is it that is driving them to success, and just taking the things that resonate with you.
Now, you are very multifaceted. Okay, so you have more than one thing going on, and we talked about that a little bit before we came on. So, in addition to singing and writing your own music, and we're going to hear some of that in a minute. I'm so excited. But in addition to all of that, you also have causes that you're a part of too. Yes. So I wanted to talk just a little bit about this new project that you're working on that I was told about. So what is that?
So I am beyond excited and elated, and there aren't enough words to tell you how I feel about this. My sister and I, we've just formed a nonprofit. It's called No Girl Left Behind.
Yay! Like your t-shirt.
Like my t-shirt. Repping it every day. It is such a passion project. It is more than a passion project. I think it's very much so my life purpose. I believe that music, I really, with all of my heart, believe that music is the greatest platform to do these things that I was meant to do, to affect lives for as many girls around the world as I can. So we have an incredible team of girls. We do workshops that, deal with. We work with girls who have self-esteem issues, or maybe they're cutting, or, maybe they don't feel good enough. Maybe they feel unworthy, girls between the ages of 13 to 18. Then we also do women in prisons. We do women with domestic violence issues. Wherever there's a girl in need, we're there to lift them up, giving them the tools to succeed in life and live life at their highest potential. So I have an amazing team that I work with. And then we highlight different causes, different things that affect women, whether if it's domestic violence or sex slave trafficking or homeless women, which is something you and I have been thinking of. Yes. I love all of what you do, and I'm so happy to always be in your presence because you're just amazing and inspiring.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
But yeah, and then also one of the things that we're going to be doing is providing scholarships for girls to live the life of their dreams. So this is I'm so happy. I know that we can touch as many girls around the world, and I've been able to witness girls have breakthroughs in front of my eyes, and nothing makes me feel more fulfilled and satisfied than that. So
yes, and everyone I think deserves a leg up, no matter where they start from.
Right,
they deserve an opportunity.
Absolutely. And sometimes it's just everybody has what it takes. I mean, it's coded in our very being. We have what it takes to succeed. We are meant to live out the life of our dreams because we all come with a purpose. And sometimes it just takes a little reminder, a little nudge, someone to tell you you can do this. And if a girl comes to our workshop, they're going to experience a lot more than you can do this. They'll really have breakthroughs. And that's the idea. We want everyone to just live life at their highest potential.
Lunch with the Finance Fund. Today in our studio, we have Mrs. Deborah Begay. And Deborah is the author of 16 books. She's a motivational speaker. She does a plethora of things that she's going to talk to us about today. And I am so excited to have you here.
Thank you so much, Charline. It's just great to be here, and we're going to have a great time.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, we are.
I told you I am just flying today because this is one of my dream interviews. So thank you so much for saying yes.
Thank you.
Yeah. And so the one thing that always sticks in my mind when I watch you on video, on television, listen to your motivational talks and all of that is, what made you decide to get started down this path?
I don't think I decided to get started. It just kind of developed from one thing to another. But the key thing was in starting to write a book. But I started way back when I used to have people confront issues, when I used to have them confront conflict. And somebody said, you should write a book about that. And I thought, well, I don't know how to write a book. I'm a CPA. I don't write books. But so it kind of evolved based on meeting a need. And that's kind of the theme of my life. Find a need and meet it.
Right,
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
Okay. So could you tell us a bit about yourself?
I grew up in the Deep South during the 60s.
You?
Yeah. And that was a time of real interesting racial relations.
Definitely.
But it was good. It was good. The education system was good. And so I grew up in a very tumultuous household.
Okay.
And 7 kids. I was the second of 7.
Wow.
My mom was very powerless, and it was looking at her powerlessness that really motivated me to say, I got to make sure I position myself so that I don't have to take abuse, physical and verbal, just so that I can get my essentials met. So that's kind of how it started. And I was valedictorian in my high school class and went to college. Always wanted to go to college to get out of my small hometown, but just because it looked like something fun to do. So that's pretty much. And then, of course, I've been married now for 37 years. I like to get that in because I know that today people don't stay married a long time.
That's very true. That's very true. And your husband is wonderful.
Oh, he is. He really is. And so it's, I say, a match made in heaven.
Yes.
We still work out the details on earth, though.
That's great. So, how did you discover your gift? How did you discover it?
Just pressured into it after people told me I should write a book, and I'm assuming you're talking about the gift of writing.
Yes, at this point.
I don't even think of it as a gift as much as just obedience, because what I've learned, and I'm sure we'll talk about this later, though, is that if God calls you to do something, you don't have to be good at it.
That's right.
Already. And I really want people to understand that, because I had never written until I wrote, So I was an accountant, and I felt that I could do spreadsheets better than anything else in analyses. And then God called me to write the book called Confronting Without Offending. And it wasn't even about finances.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly, because your background is in accounting.
That's right. I have a bachelor's in accounting and an MBA in finance.
Exactly. So you're completely now doing something
that's outside of my
your
so if you want to call that gifting or my experience.
Right.
But it's wonderful to watch God show himself strong in this area.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And we just have to have the faith and believe we can do it.
You got to show up. And you believe he can do it. You see, and so one of the things I like to talk about is like, don't get into self-confidence, because you can never develop self enough to where you feel totally 100%, I got this. You're going to always feel some uneasiness, some inadequacy.
That's right. And we talked about that a little bit too, right before we went on.
Yeah.
That we sometimes think we have to reach perfection.
Yeah, we do.
Of some kind before we do whatever it is we think.
And especially women, because during my career in corporate America, I had men who came to work for me who said they had the experience, but they really learned on the job. And there were jobs I didn't go for because I didn't feel that I had the skills yet,
or the experience
developed enough, so that I could hit the ground running. Mm-hmm. No, sometimes you just have to hit the ground and say, God help me, run for me, run with me.
So what motivates you to become so involved in confronting life's issues?
Well, because when I say life's issues, I have this concept that life is like a stool.
Okay.
And so I can't really just focus on one leg of that stool.
Yes.
Because the stool has 4 legs. And it's the relational, the physical, the emotional, and the financial. And every problem we have in life is going to be in one of those areas.
Yes.
So as I started to write about finance, when I finally got to a finance book, I realized, I got to talk about the emotions that drive that. Then I got to talk about the people that cause us not to save our money well, or whose other behavior thwarts our efforts. So I just said, listen, we got to confront all the issues, and we can't just choose one, because that's our area of expertise, and say, this is the one. If you get this one right, all the others will fall in place. No,
that's not true.
No, you got to balance your life out.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you brought a table with you today.
I did.
That we're going to see in the YouTube.
Okay.
But explain that, please, at this point.
Well, life is like a stool with a base and 4 legs.
Okay.
And the base, or the part you sit on, that's your foundation. And it really consists of your beliefs.
Okay.
The principles and things that run your life.
Okay.
But these beliefs, if they're anchored in the right kinds of beliefs, i.e. for me, the Bible, then they flow down and affect how you operate those 4 legs. For instance, let's say if I believe that God's going to supply all my needs, I won't be anxious about that financial leg. I won't be anxious about getting to be 65 and don't have enough money in the bank, because I know ultimately God's going to take care of me. That doesn't negate planning. But so the beliefs shape your behavior. And I always say that, believing is behaving, and behaving is believing. So when you ask yourself, you look at the issues in your life and you'll say, what am I believing about this? When I'm experiencing anxiety or problems, what am I believing? And is that belief in alignment with the Word of God?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And the stool you brought today.
It shows a life out of balance because,
does.
you know, ideally we all have strong beliefs in every area, and we're cooking with gas on all four, and we're balanced. But I had a stool at my house once, and it was rickety, you know, and I would put tape and gum and stuff on
to make it balance.
But it was always rickety. But life can be like that if you don't allow those principles and the beliefs to supply the little gap there. You know, when you're thinking, you know, anxiety or whatever, you say, okay, but God's got this. You know, so I'm not going to be, you know, rickety. I'm not going to be wishy-washy. I'm just going to say He's got this.
And it makes it so much less about us and more about Him.
Absolutely.
And you can relax more.
You can
You
rest
really
in the Lord.
You can rest. Yes, rest in the Lord. And that's what we're supposed to do, right?
Yeah, and you have to challenge yourself to do it. You have to remember to rest. In fact, you got to work hard to rest.
That's very true. We both know about that, right?
You got to work hard at resting, because if not, you think you need to get into self-effort. You know, even in my career, it's like, I need to do something. I'm not meeting enough people. I'm not networking enough. Like, you know what? Your career's in God's hands. All the days ordained for Him were already written in His book. Ordained for you were written in His book.
That's
already.
very true.
So, what are you going to do with that?
And what a career you're having.
I am. And I switched careers when I was 56 years old.
Did you?
I did. I'm not going to tell you how long that's been.
Okay, that's
It's been 10 years.
Well, you know what? You wear it well.
Thank you.
Definitely.
Thank you. Yeah.
You know, but I think that's a strong point for those listening, is that you don't have to stay in the career that you first chose. You can evolve. You can decide to do something else and be just as successful, even more successful, and have a lot more fun.
Listen, the hardest decision I ever made was leaving my job. It was a comfortable job, and I'm thinking like, okay, I'm set. I liked it. The people like me. Right. I've got a lot of self-esteem out of doing it. And then my husband said, I believe God is calling you to write and speak full time. And I'm thinking, no, He's calling me to keep getting my check.
So your husband was a part of your motivation, a part of motivating you.
Yeah, I thought I could do it all. Why don't I just write part-time and, you know, go speak here and there? But he says, I believe God is calling you to this full-time. And I'm like, oh, Lord, who does this at 56 years old? But it has been a wonderful adventure, and God has just gotten all the glory from it. He really has.
And you know what? We, the recipients and the readers of your book, have all been blessed by it.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for stepping out on faith and doing this.
It's been my joy. And I tell you, my life has never been more fulfilling than it is right now. I've just had the most wonderful past probably 3 months. I've been from one end of the country. I've been to every corner of the United States in the last 60 days.
I know. I've been watching you on Facebook. I'm like, wow.
Yes. And it's just so rewarding. It's just so rewarding. I'm just so grateful to God. I'm glad I did it.
Yes. And so that's another point for the listeners.
Yes.
Is to enjoy what you're doing, because that should be a part of it.
It
right?
should be. And when and sometimes it's about positioning, because sometimes we step out by faith, but the other times we step out by faith and planning.
Right. Exactly.
You know, so when I knew I was going to leave my job, I made sure I had no credit card debt. I was already leading up to that, because I don't believe in having credit card debt. I believe in using credit cards, because you need a credit card.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But not the debt
No,
associated
and
with
having
it.
a little bit adequate reserves, and having multiple streams of income.
Yes.
You know, because I am a CPA. I'm inactive now in terms of, I don't do audits and all that stuff, but I can do little stuff that still generates money if I want to.
Yeah, but that multiple streams of income we talk about a lot. You know, it's like you said, it's fine to step out on faith, but do it with planning.
Right.
You know, have the other parts of it in place, like your multiple streams of income, to make sure that way you're not stressed out while you're trying to pursue your passion.
Right. And it shows good stewardship. I think God honors good stewardship. So if you say, okay, I'm going to stay out of debt, you know, I've been generous to my church, all of that, and now you're positioned for God to bless you, and as you said, you don't have to worry about it. You know, so I never worried about money. I just think I don't think God wants me to worry about money anyway. No. I think if I'm willing and obedient, I'm going to have the stuff I need. And we've not lacked. That's the interesting part. And I have to tell you something funny. When he told me to step out like that, and I said, but do you realize I'm a minority? I can't make money selling books. Minorities don't buy enough books. Now, that was just an assumption that I made. That was a limitation that was in my brain, and that wasn't true. But I still didn't put my picture on my books.
look, I have not been to a airport in this country and not seen one of your books.
I know, and you haven't seen my picture on them either.
Not true.
So I don't put my picture on them. I just put my name on them. But I've never put my picture until this last book, and that was an error. They had a new person that come to the publishing company, and he didn't know that even though I had a picture there, it was for their catalog and not for me to put on the book. So he put it on the back of the book.
And so that one you allowed to go out with your picture on it?
No, we made a big fuss about it.
Oh, wow.
So they redid the cover.
Okay.
But we did keep the first 6,000 copies that they had printed. So.
But you know what? That goes according to consistency, too. And you have to have the power to know in yourself your branding and what you want your branding to be, and not allow other people to make those decisions for you.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. You got to be strategic about stuff. And the great news is that we have the best strategist ever, Jesus.
Exactly. You know, and if people are that interested, all they have to do is Google, and you're everywhere.
Well, you know, and I hear that, and I'm so humbled by it. I am so humbled by them. Like, get out of here. I was at the Cheesecake Factory last night, and the lady came to me, and she said, I have your books, and I saw you on Marilyn Hickey, and I meet people across the country. I'm like, really? I'm like, Gomer Powell, golly.
Audience, we have in the studio Miss Deborah Sawaf, and she's from Talle Blanc, and she is the designer of the most beautiful handbags and evening bags I've probably ever seen. So welcome to our show.
Thank you, Charline. It's really nice to be here, and I'm honored to be on the show. Thank you for having me.
Well, I was so happy you said yes. We met at USC, and you were on a panel of very powerful women, and you represented everything I saw as a successful woman in business. And so I wanted to have you on the show so you could share some pearls with us of how you obtained the amount of success that you've had so far. And so when you were at USC, you mentioned a lot of things, you know, including where you were from, how you grew up, and all those things. So we want to know a little bit about all of that. But first, I wanted to start off by asking you, how was your vacation? We've been following you, and you had the most fabulous vacation. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Well, traditionally, we spend the summer in France with family, mostly my husband's family.
Okay.
And it's generally about 2.5 months. This time we spent about 2 months, so from June to August. My kids did a summer camp in Switzerland in the Alps, which is something that my husband's family's done. The kids through the generations have gone to the same summer camp, and it was my kids are old enough now, and it was their turn to be there. While they were at camp, my husband and I did a road trip. We did about 400 miles through Switzerland, France, and Italy. It's beautiful. We travel a lot when we're in the summer. When we're in France in the summer, the kids get a lot of exposure to different cultures. I think it's quite educational for them as well as fun. Right. This year we went to Como from Switzerland. Then we went to Lake Maggiore, which is absolutely spectacular, beautiful. We also did Venice. While I'm in Italy, I do a lot of work. While I'm in Europe, I am able to work as well. So in between, I go to the factories and finish up a collection or work on the new collection. And then we came back, picked up the kids, and went to our home in France.
Okay, so you had a full summer.
Yes.
Full summer. Now, speaking of business, and you kind of led into that, saying that you can mix your vacation time with some business time also, which is wonderful. How did you get started? Like, as far as your company is concerned, how did you come up with the name, first of all?
My daughter's called Talia, and I wanted something close enough to her name, so I picked Talle Blanc, Blanc for innocence, and it also gave me room to grow the brand. So we have Talle Noir as well, which is a high-end luxury line that's more exclusive.
Okay. And then as far as your training goes, where did you study, or did you take fashion or design or any of those things before you started your line, or was it just your love of, creating? How did you start?
Well, I think fashion was inborn in some ways. So I had actually studied psychology, but I stumbled upon fashion, I would say couture to begin with. That's where I started my career. My brother-in-law worked with Versace, and I had the opportunity to experience some incredible work he was doing. So after college, I would go to the factory and learn new things.
Yes.
I'd never been exposed to embroidery before, and that's what he did. So he did couture embroidery for some of the major brands. I went on, moved to the Middle East, and did my own couture line. And when I moved to the States, I was a little lost because California is more pret-a-porter, beachwear,
Right.
T-shirts. So I decided to go back to school. I decided to study fashion in LA. I went to FIDM, and when I finished with FIDM, I was pregnant, had my babies, but decided to go back to school again and study gemology. I wanted to go a level up from fashion, and I thought jewelry was a good direction. And I took it from there. After my third child went to school, I decided I was ready to go back to work, and my husband always encouraged me to be creative. So I figured accessories was a good way to go because I'd done embroidery, I'd done jewelry, casting, molding, and accessories was a really great template, you know, where I could use everything I'd learned. And I'm loving what I do.
That is wonderful. And so you mentioned that you're not originally from the United States. So where are you from, and how did you grow up?
I was born in India.
Okay.
My parents, I'm mixed, I'm Anglo-Indian. My mother's family's British and my father's Indian. I lived in the Middle East for a few years. That's where I met my husband while he was visiting. And I moved to the States to get married.
Oh, okay, okay. So once you started your first line, how did you move from this is an idea to, okay, I have this background that is, you know, a wide range of things. And how did you said you decided you wanted to do accessories. And so how did you decide at what level you wanted to do accessories? Because some people start very, very small. How did you start?
In my basement at home, I started with a very small idea, which was phone pochette. It was something to carry your phone in and keep it on your body at all times, wear it crossbody or around the waist, very versatile. I considered it a mum necessity because I personally always lost my phone or misplaced it or put it in my handbag and couldn't find it. So it was really more a practical item. One thing led to another. I had a friend say to me, why are you doing just a phone pochette when you can do so much more? And I took that very seriously and decided to do a luxury line. I started small, but grew, I want to say, suddenly but organically. I did a trade show in New York. An Italian showroom discovered us and took us to Italy, and I showed the line in Italy. They distributed worldwide, so it was just being in the right place at the right time.
Right time, right? But
Which
with
is
the right pieces.
With the right pieces, accessories is new. Accessories are new to me in many ways. The company's about 5 years old, and I'm learning every day. And I'll never be good enough for myself. I think my product's beautiful, but I have a long way to go.
Wow. Well, we had the privilege of going to your office when I met with you privately. And your handbags and evening bags were just absolutely beautiful. And I think the thing I love the most about them is that they were unique. I could see your flair, your personality in them. They were very unique, custom pieces for the most part that were just beautiful. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. So we were very entertained while we waited for you to come into your office. We were very entertained.
Thank you.
What inspires you? What inspires you to do handbags and to make them so beautiful? What inspires you to do your pieces?
I think because we're in the world of luxury, I want to create and give the woman that has everything something different. Okay. I try not to look too similar to another brand, and if it is, we change. I think I want it to be special. I want my customer to be able to put a bag on a shelf and pull it out again in 10 years. And so they're classic, they're unique, yes, but they're also really great quality. I think quality is probably the most important feature for the brand, and I strive really hard. We have a policy where if something breaks, we exchange it, we don't fix it. When you pay that much for an item, you really want to make sure your customer is getting their money's worth, so to speak. I'm inspired by, I think I listen to what my kids, two of my older kids actually spend time working with me. And one of them is very into cars. So okay. My oldest, Nicholas, loves cars. He loves the engine. He loves the finish. He loves the metals. So I draw inspiration from what they're thinking. And 2 years ago, he talked a lot about carbon fiber and all these new accessories that they're doing on cars and the matte black finish. So I actually took that and implemented it in my collection. He doesn't really know that was dedicated to him or that's where it came from. Wow. But it's unique for me because the collection's really classic. So that was a nice twist. And luxury cars, luxury goods, they go hand in hand and definitely. They inspire, it's vice versa. You take from what the car world is doing, car world takes from what fashion's doing.
That's true. That's very true. So you were inspired by your son for that collection?
Yes.
Wow, that's nice. I have another question for you that was asked actually this morning. I was talking to my goddaughter. And she said, "Oh, you're going to have someone on who does accessories. I have some questions." So I said, "Okay." And I wrote her questions down because I thought they were important. One of her questions was, how do you define success and how do you believe it is achieved? And when she asked that question, it's because she has kind of been all over the place, like as far as she's very creative, but she jumps from one thing to the next. And I told her, I said, center yourself and figure out what you really like, and you can build from there, but start in one space and then work out from there. And so how do you define success? How do you define success?
Speaking like a mother, I think success is not about a dollar amount or how high your rank is in a company. I think success is really learning and what you take away from what you do, whether good or bad. Every experience you have, what you're taking away is your success. That's how you grow. How do you achieve success? I think it's really important, especially for the young generation. A lot of people work because they have to, but at the same time, if you're going to have to do that, I think you find what you love, because you want to be able to work. You might have to work till 2 o'clock in the morning, and then have to wake up at 7 and rush out the door and get ready and rush back to work. But if you're dragging yourself and hating it, then you're not in the right job.
Exactly.
So really look for what makes you happy, and you're excited to go back. And whatever you do, whether you're serving at a restaurant, you're happy to see new faces, you're happy to meet new people. Whether you're an artist, you're happy to go back to your canvas. Whether you're in finance, you're happy to go back and see what's going on the grid. Whatever it is you choose, I think make sure your heart's in it, not just your mind. I think it's important to be one with your career.
Today we are at Nona Sina. Yes, finally I made it to Nona Sina, and we are with the beautiful and talented Tiana Lufau. Did I say that right?
Close. Lufau.
Okay. And I wanted to come and meet with you because you have a world famous international dance school. And everyone knows that part, but I really would like to get to know you, the person. So thank you for agreeing to be on my show.
Oh, thank you. What an honor. Thank you so much for having me.
Definitely. So Nonacina, what does that mean? It's such a prestigious name. What does Nonacina mean?
Nonacina is actually a tropical seabird found all throughout Polynesia. We call it different names in different islands. So you have Nonacina, you have the Tawake, you have Ko'ekea. It's all the same species of a certain white long-tailed bird. And my grandma taught me when I was young that when you would see the bird in certain parts of the island, it was almost like a good luck, a sign of good luck. And then also a lot of voyagers make reference to the bird because these birds would only fly so far away from land and back.
Okay. So when the sailors would see them, they'd know they were close to land.
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So I was told, yes.
Okay. Now, you mentioned your grandmother. So Nonacina is 3 generations of dance. Is that correct?
Yes, Nonacina is a dance company. I would be the 3rd generation, but as far as dance practitioners and cultural practitioners, it would be dated actually way further back. But as an organized, lack of a better word, business, a dance business, 3 generations.
3 generations.
Yes.
And so when did your grandmother come to the United States? What was that journey like?
My grandmother was born and raised on a small island in the Polynesian Triangle called American Samoa. At the age of about 10 or 11, she moved to the island of Oahu, to the North Shore. At the time, it was through church affiliations, actually, that she ended up there. And then at about 15, she ended up here in California. And then she brought with her the only thing she had, and it was the love of dance, Polynesian music and dance. She didn't speak a word of English at all. She we only had our cultural dance. And so she eventually started her dance company. Local mothers and the neighborhood mothers, and also from church, they offered to teach her English in exchange for learning cultural dance. And at that time, that's when the glorification of Polynesia, mainly Hawaii, Tahiti, was being brought to the film industry. Okay. Yeah. And so it was through that exchange that she would learn English and in return start teaching dances, and eventually it started getting too big for her little house with my grandpa.
So she started in her home?
In the garage,
oh,
yes.
Wow.
In exotic Buena Park.
Okay. So the Nonacina Dance School started in Buena Park, California.
Yes, in a little garage.
Amazing. And now today you're located in a studio that takes up almost half of what is seen as a strip mall. Like, you guys have really expanded from back then.
Yeah, we haven't, and what's awesome is I know my grandma never envisioned that it would be what it is today.
Yes.
And she is still there, alive and kicking, and still schooling us every second of the way. So, yeah, we have our dance studio. Started off as one little unit. Yes. We started growing. The business next door went out, knocked down the wall, opened up that. The business on the other side went out, knock down that wall, and we're hoping to take over the whole block.
Well, you are definitely headed in the right direction. You have almost all of it now. So to tell me a bit about Nonacina and how it was founded, what about your mom? Like, what was her positioning? Because now your grandmother started this wonderful dance company, and then now your mother is entering into the dance company. So what would be her way of growing the business? What did she do to grow the business?
My mom was always the right-hand man to my grandmother. She was one of 3, and she was the one that was actually born and raised literally inside the dance and creative space, whether it be the garage or the small studio space. And she was the youngest, and that was everything to her. It was everything to the point where, actually, her last year of high school, she had the opportunity to tour with the Tahitian dance company based in Tahiti and tour all over the world and get that experience with the native people of Tahiti. And she left high school and went on tour because that's what she felt her calling was, not so much to go on tour, but to dance, to represent the culture throughout the world, and to get that exchange and that experience with the native people.
Okay.
So when that happened, my mom we did all different islands back in the days. All Polynesian dance groups did. We did hula from Hawaii, we did Samoan, we did Tongan, we did Tahitian, and then Maori, also known as from New Zealand. Everyone did a variety show. Okay. What my mom brought was something slightly different. At this time, a lot of the competition circuit was getting more popular, and so all these dance groups started entering competitions, and then this is when the group started honing in on maybe one island that they were really interested in or really gifted at or had heritage from that island. My mom started gearing everything towards Tahitian dance, and then she took over the competition circuit as a solo dancer and entering group when she was fully in charge, and I feel like that kind of set the tone and the level that was expected when you say you're from Nonosina at that point.
Okay.
I think the competition circuit had a lot to do with that. I personally think there's good aspects to that and bad for competition, but that's where I think my mom brought Nonosina to a totally different, level. Yes. And where we really established a lot of our credentials throughout the world, maybe.
Right. Now, why Tahitian dance?
That's a good question. I'm glad you asked that, because I am actually predominantly Samoan, and I am also mixed with a little bit of Hawaiian and Tongan. Yes. But for some reason, even dating back to my grandma, something about the heartbeat and the energy and the vibration of Tahitian dance always called us. Okay. We didn't really choose it. It more so was calling us, and we always responded. So there's something about it that just, I can't even describe it in words, which is why I love teaching dance. I feel like I can best describe it in a dance or in music. Something just draws my family to that. And we don't have a drop of Tahitian blood. However, we are Polynesian. We do celebrate that we are all one. We come from the same origins, but I don't know, there's something about Tahitian that I think my eyes just lit up too, talking about it, because I can't describe it. It's the energy, it's the vibration, it's the mana, we say in Polynesian.
What does mana mean?
Mana, that's really hard to define.
Okay.
Mana would be like the nucleus or the driving force of everything, both living and non-living. Okay. So there can be mana in objects, there could be mana in us humans, there could be mana in almost everything you can think of, and you can really feel it. There's good mana and bad mana. I don't know what the word in English would be.
So it's almost like energy or spirit?
Right, yeah.
Almost like energy or spirit. So it would be like that nucleus in.
Right.
And it doesn't have to be a person. It could be in,
an object, and it could be an instrument. It could be in an adornment while you're dancing, or something rather, a chord that you hear even. It's really hard to explain, but that really drives me and motivates me in what I do.
Sponge. Today, I'm so excited. I have been anticipating this interview from the day Leilani said that this gentleman said yes. I have Mr. Coco Black, that's right, on the show today. And Coco Black, for me, is a stylist. He is a trendsetter. He is a fashion icon, and he's a designer. Those are just some of the things I like about you. The other thing I love about you, before I let you start speaking, is your humble, wonderful presence. So thank you for agreeing to come on my show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm definitely humbled and also grateful to be here with you.
Oh, wow.
So
the first thing I want to know is the name Coco Black. Where did you get the name from? I love it. Where did you get that name from?
Well, the name Coco Black came from when I was from a childhood, actually. I was made fun of growing up. I grew up in Arizona, and long story short, I remember this one kid calling me a coconut.
Okay.
And I was just like, a coconut? Because I wasn't black enough for the black people, and I wasn't white enough for the white people, and I wasn't Mexican at all.
Right.
So someone just called me a coconut. Oh, because I would always wear my little like Hawaiian board shorts and like puka shells. And I'm like, I don't know if that's supposed to be offensive or whatever. So I realized, I'm just like, well, I'm going to be a fashion designer when I grow up. And I'm like, I need a name. And in high school, I came up with Coco Black. So me being part Polynesian and also me being part black.
Okay.
So that's where Coco Black comes from.
Okay. So Coco is the new black.
Yep, exactly.
Yes.
I do have a shirt that says Coco's the new black.
I like that. It's funny how, when people can't put you in what they think is a box that they're accustomed to seeing, they try to shove you into a new box. And, we have to take that and make something positive out of it. So for you to take what was probably meant to be offensive and turn it around and make it into a brand, an international brand, is just amazing.
Thank you. Yeah. And it's also one of the things where, growing up, people kind of knew that there was something special about me. They're like, you're gonna make it. And there's also a lot of people that, didn't believe in me. Mm-hmm. But that was something for me, like you said, to take something negative and turn it into something positive. And that's something that was just like really, really helped me actually, building my brand and also my business.
Yeah. So growing up, you mentioned a little earlier that you wanted to, and you knew you were going to be in fashion. And so how did you did you dream about being in fashion, and where did you see yourself?
Well, the funny thing was like growing up during that time, we would always, collect Marvel cards and like comic book stuff and this and that. So what I would do is I would take these comic book characters and I would draw new outfits for them.
You'd redress them?
I did. Yeah, no, I did. So it wasn't, I was still kind of like playing with, masculine things, but like on the side, I was like giving like new outfits for like Superman, Batman, and like, all of like the X-Men characters and stuff like that. So it was a big dream of mine to do something in fashion. Okay. But I didn't actually really know what it was.
Exactly. So how did you get started? Like when did it go from, being a childhood dream to you deciding this is what I'm going to do with my life? How did that transition take place?
Wow. I would probably say I was a late bloomer in the fashion industry.
Okay.
I've been in LA for 8 years.
Yes.
And before I jumped into the whole fashion scene, I was working at U.S. Airways. At the moment, it was U.S. Airways. Mm-hmm. I was working for the airlines. And I was just traveling, just like enjoying my time. And I remember I needed a break from everything around me, and I bought a one-way ticket to China. And I think I was about 22 at that time. And I went to China to teach English to elementary kids and travel. And I had the most amazing time, great experience, dove into the food, the culture, and also at that time, like fashion. Like I was like me coming from a town in Arizona, right, going to like Shanghai to like almost one of the fashion capitals at that moment, yes, and just seeing all of these clothes and just everything, and I immersed myself in that, and I quickly fell in love. And when I came back to LA, I was just like, actually to Arizona, I'm like, I'm gonna move to LA and I want to do fashion. I didn't know what exactly I wanted to do, but I knew that I had a goal and I had a plan, and I'm like, this is what I want to do, something.
Wow. Now, did you go to school for fashion? Did you go to one of the fashion schools or any of that?
That's a funny story. So I did apply to FITM, and I was planning to go to FITM. The first day I showed up. I was to have a magazine from San Francisco. They were going to sponsor me.
Okay.
So they were going to take care of like my, you know, tuition and all that, blah, blah, blah. So first day I show up and they're like, actually, they didn't follow through without any kind of communication with me.
You.
So I show up expecting to go to class, and they're like, oh yeah, they're like it's not a problem, you can start, but do you have 3,000 you can put down and you can
and you're like
go to school? And I was just like, no I don't. So I left campus and I sat on the curb just like, what am I going to do?
Wow.
Like, what am I going to do? And I set in my mind and that I was going to make it no matter what. That was my plan A, and there was no plan B. There was no, you're not going to make it. This was just like, all right, I'm going to have to figure it out and make it on my own. And that time, you know, working these like small little jobs, you know, here and there, and staying with actually one of my best cousins, who was like my best friend, and I would possibly say like my rock throughout the whole time is David. Okay. And he was the one that was just like, no, you can do it, and like, you know, whatever it is that you want, you know, to accomplish, like, and I'm like, yeah, I'm like, no, it's possible, you know. And throughout like from then to now, he's always just been a part of like my success in my career.
Wow.
Yeah.
So he was like a positive voice.
Yeah,
saying,
definitely.
Don't worry about it. You can do it. Don't sweat the little stuff. Just keep going. Wow. And then how did you get your first break? Because, you know, there's some like breaking point where you can say, okay, this was the point where I went from thinking about it, you know, preparing myself for it, to actually doing it. You know, how did that happen? Because there's always an opportunity that we don't take advantage of. Like someone will offer us something, or we'll see an opportunity and we let fear stand in the way. But what was the big break, you know, the big turning point for you? How did that happen?
A quote comes to mind. Fake it till you make it.
Okay. And
I really didn't even understand like kind of what, I mean, of course that's kind of like, you know, you fake it till you make it. Right. But like, how are you going to fake it? You know, like it was, so I got a job on Melrose and I was there for about a year.
Okay.
So I would have various stylists and designers come in pulling for TV, movies, photo shoots and things like that. And finally this lady came in, her name was Carmen Thompson. Was like really frantic. She's like, I need this, I'm doing something for this. I'm like, okay, perfect. So I'm pulling all these clothes for her, and she's like, yes, I love that, I'll take that, I'll do this. And I'm like, okay, cool. Like I'm pulling like the right necessary stuff that you have. So this just came out of my mouth. I'm like, well, I'm a stylist if you need any help on your shoot. And she was just like, actually, yeah, I do. She's like, are you working tomorrow? I'm like, no, I'm not working tomorrow. And she's like, cool, I'll come and pick you up with the clothes. We'll go on set. And the whole night, I couldn't even sleep. I'm just like, oh my gosh, I just lied to this lady. And that morning, she picks me up, and we're heading to the actual studio where this movie is being shot. And I was just like, my legs are like all shaking, and I'm like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do? I have to tell her the truth. So I told her, I'm like, Carmen, okay, I have to tell you something. And she's like, what's up? She's like, and I'm like, okay, I'm not a stylist. This is actually my first time like on the job. And she looked at me. She's like, are you kidding me? She was so mad. She was just like, she's like, I don't know what to do. And I looked at her. I'm like, I promise, like, I'll learn everything. I'll just like, you know, I'll do whatever it is that you tell me to do. Please just like give me a chance and give me a shot.
Yeah.
We get on set and she was mad. She's taking all the stuff. She's putting it on the rack. She's like, okay. She's like, first lesson. And she's like, don't ever lie to me. And I'm like, okay, I promise I won't. And from that point on, she taught me everything that I really needed to know.
Wow.
Like, she's like, this is the first AD. This is what he does. This is blah, blah, blah. And really taught me proper, like, etiquette on sets.
Right.
You know what I mean? Just really was just like, this is what you do. This is your job. And really broke everything down for me. So after a year of, like, working with her, this is where my first breakthrough came. Mm-hmm. So she got a job working with another costume designer for the Kids' Choice Awards. Okay. And at that time, The Rock, Dwayne Johnson, was hosting. Mm-hmm. And they wanted the whole creative concept for the end of the show was him coming out in a very Tahitian kind of situation, and he has like dancers and all this stuff. So Carmen realized, she's like, wait a second. She's like, didn't you grow up making these costumes? I'm like, yeah, I did. And then she's like, all right, perfect. I'll hire you. Because the whole time I was just kind of like, you know, working for free because she was teaching me.
Okay. So it was like an apprenticeship. Like
it
you
was,
working
yeah,
for free,
definitely.
and she was just, okay. So you guys hear that? You might have to work for free. It's okay.
Put in your dues.
Put in the work, and it will obviously reward you. Now, what do you have coming up more right now? What do you have going on now?
Wow. Okay. Well,
because I was happy to get you. I was like, whatever day he says, okay.
Gosh. I know. I was really hesitant to be like, yes, I'm available for that date, because things always pop up in this industry. Well, I recently just finished costuming and styling the Meghan Trainor tour, which is out right now. She's out right now. She's traveling right now. So that took a lot of my time. And I think I need to take a break because that took a lot out of me. I am doing a commercial tomorrow, and after that I'm going to be working on my 2017 spring summer collection for next year.
Wow.
Yeah, which I will be showing in October.
Cool. So wait, you're going to be showing it in October, for the spring,
for the following year.
Spring. I want to come.
Definitely. Yeah. Let's make it happen.
Yay.
We can make it happen, of course.
Oh, yay. I want to come. That's great. What else do I want to ask you before you have to go? Will you come back on my show?
Yeah, definitely.
You will?
Let's make it happen.
Okay, good. Because I know you were a little hesitant.
Yes, let's make it happen. No, yeah. It'll be fun. I'm fine.
That's good. That's good. Now, what one piece of advice would you give someone who is listening to this interview and says, oh my gosh, I want to be the next Coco Black? What's one piece of advice you would give them?
God's greatest creativity is my own individuality, which is a quote by Thomas S. Monson. And that for me was just, we're all different.
Yes.
And we're all here for a purpose.
Yes.
And whatever it is, if it's a homemaker, a mother, a designer, banker, whatever, we're all here for a purpose. And we're all a part of this great plan. And for me, I knew that I was different, you know, and I knew that I had some special plan or, you know, out there set for me. But I've always had a very strong faith in knowing that everything will happen when it's supposed to happen, and God will provide a way.
Yes.
And if you put your faith in Him, then anything is possible. So, I mean, I'm always telling people, just whatever it is that makes you happy, just do it. Just do it.
Yeah. Whatever it is that makes you happy, just do it. Stop just thinking about it and get up and go do it, because there's a whole audience out there waiting for you, whatever your gift and talent is. And I want to thank you so much, Coco Black, for coming on my show and sharing your pearls of wisdom.
Thank you so much.
I really appreciate it. And I will definitely be at your spring collection debut.
Let's make it happen.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. This is Lunch with the Finance Bunch. This is Miss Charline, and thank you so much for listening.